Hello, it's me again. I was just going to do a study real quick about the relationship between Jonathan and David and its importance and the outcome of it. Let me get to 1 Samuel chapter 18. But first I just wanted to go over some of the qualities that Jonathan had, his character. I just like to look at that when I'm talking about someone in the Bible. And of course we went over the characteristics of David, so I'm just going to go over some of the characteristics of Jonathan. The first time we see Jonathan, or his name is mentioned, was in 1 Samuel 13:3, and it said that Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines. And a garrison is a fortress that holds troops, and there were different fortresses throughout the Philistine land that protected the cities. And Jonathan went up against a garrison, and he smote it there. And then we know that he was a valiant man. He was valiant in war. He was bold and brave, like David. Those characteristics David also had, and they are mentioned. And also, Jonathan was an honorable man. He was understanding. He knew that the Lord, and that's evident because in chapter 6, we see that how he trusted in the Lord. So you can't trust something you don't know. So he definitely knew the Lord, and he trusted the Lord, and he knew that the Lord would fight with him. How it also shows there how valiant and brave he was, and how good at war he was, and how he trusted God in 6:14. Just want to read 6-14 in 1 Samuel 14. Just getting to know a little bit more about Jonathan, in which we have gone over this before. That said, and Jonathan said to the young man that bare his armor, "Come and let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised, and it may be that the Lord will work for us, for there is no restraint in the Lord to save by many or by few." So he knew it didn't have to be thousands of the Israelite army to go, but him and his armor bearer can go, and God was going to fight with them, and he would deliver them. And of course they went up and they started slaying men at the garrison, and then the Lord started fighting with them, and there was a miracle happen, and the Philistines turned on each other, and they became discomfited, and they started fleeing before Israel. And when the armies of Saul seen that they were fleeing from them, they went up against them and fought against them. We also know in 15-16 that Jonathan was wise, in that he seen that his father had troubled the land by making them swear the oath that they would not eat, and it cost them. Jonathan said it would have been a greater slaughter had his father not troubled the land by causing them to swear the oath. And we know that he was honest, even in the face of death. He told what he had done and taken a little of the honey on his sword and eating, because he didn't hear that Saul had made them swear an oath. And we know that Israel had respect for Jonathan. because Saul was going to kill the man that had ate and had not done the oath, and the people of Israel to save Jonathan out of Saul's hand and said, no, he has wrought salvation in Israel this day, should not be killed. So they saved Jonathan from Saul. And we also see in chapter 19 of 1 Samuel that he was an advocate for justice. When his father told him that he wanted to kill David because he feared that David would take the kingdom, Jonathan advocated for David and showed Saul that David had done nothing worthy of death and that he shouldn't put forth his hand against David. And Saul did listen at that time. But of course that was short-lived, and he again seek David's life after that. But we see that Jonathan was the advocate for justice. And so the first time I'm going to go back to, and I'm going to go now to 1 Samuel in chapter 18. And this is the first time that Jonathan sees David. I mean, they all watched David go down against the Philistine, and they all heard what David had said to the Philistine, and David proclaiming that God was going to fight for him, and that he was fighting the battle for the Lord. So in 1 Samuel 18 and verse 1, it said, and it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, talking about David was speaking unto Saul, because they questioned David, whose son are you, and all that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And so this to me is a spiritual thing. It goes beyond just a physical or natural love or admiration you would have for someone, which I do believe that Jonathan had admiration for David, because the traits that David had, he had those traits, and he's seen those traits in David. It's kind of like a kindred spirit, or when you meet someone that you align with in kind of like a soulmate way, but it's not like a man and a woman, but in a friendship, or well, even stronger than friendship, because it said his soul was knit with David's soul. So this is a spiritual thing that happened, and it said that he loved David as his own soul. And then in 3, it says, then Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own soul. It doesn't say what was in that covenant, but we know that they made a covenant and that they were very close friends, and they loved each other. And Jonathan did something in verse 4, and it took me about 3 weeks to try to understand and comprehend and try to get my mind around what I think it means. And this is what I come up with. I want you to read it and see what you come up with, or what the Lord reveals to you. But it took me 3 weeks for the Lord to give me an answer. I had been praying for him to reveal to me what this could mean. And in verse 4 it said, and Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him. And we know that this was a princely robe that he had on. And we know that it was costly, because even having a colored garment at that time, and of course the color of royalty is purple or a dark blue, and sometimes, and he stripped himself of his robe and he gave it to David. And that was important to me, because I think he was saying he knew that David was going to be the king. He knew that God was, because of course they knew everything that happened, the battle I was describing in chapter 14, that Saul had disobeyed God. And when he did the sacrifice and Samuel came down, he told Saul that the Lord has found himself another king, one that was on after his own heart. And we know that he was speaking of David. And I think that God revealed to Jonathan that David was going to be king. And Jonathan took off his priestly robe and he gave it to David. But not only that, it said that, and Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him, and he gave it to David, and his garments, even to his sword, and his bow to his girdle. So he gave everything. It's like he took off everything that he had, and he gave it to David, even his weapons. And I think that was Jonathan showing that he knew that David was going to be king, and he was not going to stand in his way, and he was not going to fight against him. I think that's what the meaning of that was to me. I think God revealed that to me. But, you read it and see and pray that God reveals to you what that could mean. Because it really, and I was looking at things online because I was having such trouble. And I was like, no, that's not it. That's not it. And because this was a spiritual thing, because it was about the soul. Their soul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and he loved David as his own soul. So this was a spiritual thing. This was a God thing that happened. And then we know that, and we also read on, and we see that Jonathan had David make a covenant with him, and he even that he would not cut off, when he became king, that he would not cut off his kindness from his house, and that he would show kindness to his children. And then we also see that Jonathan believed that he would be ruling with David, because when he went to see David, when David had fled from Saul, and he went to see David, he even says that to David. Let me see, I think that was in 23. Yes, 23, verse 16. And Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David into the wood, and he strengthened his hand in God. So we see that Jonathan had a relationship with God, and that he strengthened David in the Lord. He gave David encouragement, and Jonathan, and he said unto David, Fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, and thou shalt be king over Israel, and I shall be next unto thee. And also Saul my father knows this. So he told David, he said, I know you're going to be king, and I'm going to be next to you ruling, and my father also knows this. And we do know that Saul knew that, because in 24, when David had spared Saul's life, and after he left out of the cave and David talked to Saul, Saul did say, And now behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. And then he asked David to swear to him. He said, Swear that now therefore unto me by the Lord, that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David swore unto Saul, and Saul went home, and David and his men got them up into the hold. So Jonathan did know that David was going to be king, and he thought that he would rule with David, but of course that was not the way things ended. That was not how things came to be. And then in 1 Samuel 31 in chapter 2, we find out that Jonathan and his brothers and his father Saul were killed by the Philistines in battle. And then just showing the nature of David and what a good person, an honest person he was, and how he kept his word to Jonathan, that after the death of Jonathan, he sought Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth. Now, Mephibosheth was first named Merib-Baal, because at the time of Saul, and even one of Saul's sons had Baal in his name, they would name their children after gods. And Then, of course, when Samuel told them that the way that the Lord would fight for them again was to put away those gods, and a lot of them changed their names, and this is what happened to Meribbaal. His name was changed to Mephibosheth. And so after Jonathan died in battle and David is made king, he sought Jonathan's son to show him kindness for Jonathan's sake and for the covenant that he made. So he restored to Mephibosheth his family's land, the inheritance that belonged to Saul and Jonathan and his uncles was all given to Mephibosheth. And Mephibosheth was given a place at the royal table. So even though this could have compromised David's rule, David did not care. He kept his word and he did as he had promised. And he upheld the covenant he made with Jonathan. And he upheld the promise that he made to Saul that he would not cut his name from out of Israel, because that would have been the end of the Benjaminite tribe right there. It would have ended with Jonathan and his brothers, and it would have ended with Saul. But because David kept his promise, we know that Saul's name was not cut off from Israel, but that through Mephibosheth being restored their inheritance, that Mephibosheth had a son named Micah. And then you can go to 1 Chronicles chapter 8, and it starts in verse 1. It talks about Benjamin, the son of Jacob and Rachel. I always get Rebecca and Rachel's name messed up. And Rachel, and he was now Benjamin begat Bela, his firstborn, and it goes through all of his children and their children and their children. But I wanted to start at verse 33. And Ner begat Kish, and Kish begat Saul, and Saul begat Jonathan, Machashua, and Abinadab, and Ishbaal. So one of Saul's sons had Baal in his name as well. And they didn't change the name here in the Chronicles, but they kept the original names. Ishbaal. And the son of Jonathan was Meribbaal, and Meribbaal begat Micah. And Micah, there was born to Micah 4 sons, Pehon, Melech, Teriah, and Ahaz. And then it goes on to about their sons and their sons' sons. But I wanted to end in verse 40. And the sons of Olam were mighty men of valor, archers, and had many sons and sons, 150, and all these were the sons of Benjamin. And I just wanted to read that because that goes all the way back to the beginning when Jacob, who's later named Israel, gave the blessings to his sons that become the tribes of Israel. And Benjamin's blessing came to pass. It said that Benjamin shall be a ravenous wolf. He shall devour the prey, and at night shall divide the spoil. So this shows that the tribe of Benjamin will be fierce, bold, and warlike. And definitely that was true. We see that through Jonathan, and of course all his brothers and his father were killed in battle. And it shows that came to pass. And we see how when Israel was blessing them, God had showed Israel something. He's seen what this tribe was going to be, and he gave them the blessing to make the tribe be what it was going to be. And that is all I have. And then I've also got a lesson ready that I'll do that either in the morning if I can get up early enough, or tomorrow night when I get done with my day, which is usually late, because it's late now. But I'm just going to leave us with a verse. And for some reason I want to go to the front of my Bible. I usually go to the back. But it stopped here in Judges 13 and verse 10. And the woman made haste and ran and showed her husband. The woman made haste and ran and showed her husband and said unto him, Behold, the man hath appeared unto me and came unto me the other day. Okay. Oh, okay. That's really interesting. Oh, I was just wondering, because she is talking to her husband, Manoah. I'm just wondering if it's in the lineage of Benjamin here, the tribe of Benjamin. I don't know. I'll have to look into that one. But yeah, that's where we ended. Just picked one in Judges there. Also, if you're hearing this, I know I just uploaded one yesterday. Nobody's seen it yet, but hopefully God will lead someone to see that and hopefully learn something from it and reveal something to them. But I'm praying that God reveals something to you out of this text and that it will lead you to Him in some way. And Lord, I just pray for my sister Jamie, that she get better, and my sister Leah, strengthen her, Lord, and give her wisdom, and be with my son Aaron, and lead God, direct his path. In Jesus' name I pray. If you could help me pray for my sisters and my son, they've been on my heart very heavy lately, and I'm just praying God guide them and strengthen them and let them make decisions that is best for them. Anyways, thank you for listening, and know that I love you, but Jesus loves you so much more. Thank you. Bye.